Usain Bolt holds the world record for the fastest speed ever ran by a human being, just under 28 miles per hour. Crazy, right? Yet, at the same time, I'm capable of moving my body at 70 miles per hour without even raising my heartbeat. But wait, how does a gangly, lerpy, unathletic person like me move faster than the world champion? Well, it's simple. I use leverage. I simply hop in my car and I press the gas pedal, and there we go. This same principle applies to business and the event world. Now, while my results are not as impressive as Usain's, the bottom line is, as long as he's running and I am driving, I will always get from point A to point B faster and more comfortably than Usain, all because of leverage. In this episode, we're going to be talking about leverage and the difference between working in your business and working on your business. But most importantly, whether you're a business of one or you have a team of 100 people, I'm going to give you 3 actionable insights that you can implement immediately to unlock the next level of growth in your business through leverage. Welcome to the Event Secrets Podcast, where we talk about how to put on better events, take better care of our clients, and make a whole lot more money in the process. This is an all-action, no-fluff podcast full of actionable insights that you can follow, created specifically for event professionals. Okay, working in your business versus working on your business. Now, this is pretty applicable to me right now because I just went through a pretty heavy period of working in my business at Balloon Artisan. Lasted about 2 months or so. And typically I'm just working on my business full time. So about 90% of my time is generally working on my business, 10% is working in, and for the last 2 months it's actually been flipped. But hey, that's what made me want to talk about this on a podcast, is because I've been feeling the pain that comes from working in the business again. And just a reminder, this will apply to any event professional, any business, regardless of whether you're a one-person solopreneur or a freelancer or whatever, or you have 100 people working for you. To my knowledge, the phrase working in your business versus working on your business was first coined by a guy named Michael Gerber, who wrote a book called The E-Myth Revisited. And it's a really good book, one of my personal favorites. So if you haven't read it, I highly, highly recommend it. And if you have read it, but it's been a while, go give it another read or listen to, or however you consume your books these days. But let me give you a quick summary. So the book talks about this lady named Sarah. And Sarah is amazing at baking pies. And as a matter of fact, it's her full-time job. She works for like ABC Pie Company or something. I can't remember what it's called. And so Sarah, every day she comes in and she bakes the most delicious pies, and everybody loves the pies, and the customers love them. They buy them, they come back, and they send their friends, and everything's going great. The business is doing really well. And Sarah takes a step back one day and she notices, wow, my boss just kind of sits there all day and he's lazy. You know, the owner of the company, he's lazy and he doesn't know what he's doing. He can't bake a pie to save his life. I'm the one doing all the hard work. I'm the one making him all the money. Instead of me making him rich, I should go start my own pie company and make myself rich instead. Then I don't have to work for this idiot that just sits there in a chair all day and stares at a computer screen, right? I can actually make myself rich. It's great. So that's exactly what Sarah did. She started a company called All About Pies, where she was finally able to focus on her craft of making pies uninterrupted. No more stupid boss man, no more distractions, no more arbitrary quotas or anything like that. It was just her and herself and her customers and what they wanted. And at first it was euphoric. It was everything she could have hoped for and then some. When she first started the business, or when she quit her job, she thought the only thing that she needed to be good at was making pies. But as time went on, she began to learn of all the operational tasks and things that stupid, lazy, idiot boss man was doing behind the scenes that she didn't realize were happening. And so she began drowning in the operational tasks related to the business. And all of a sudden, the business wasn't so fun anymore. She no longer loved the business. Now, in the book, Michael Gerber talks about 3 distinct personalities or roles that every business needs if they want to be successful. The first one is the technician. And the technician is the one that's actually doing the work that the business sells. So event services or pie making or whatever it is, the technician is the one fulfilling that service to the client. Then you have the manager. Now, the manager is the one that supervises the work, makes sure that the systems are flowing smoothly and that things are getting done efficiently and quickly and that customers are happy and all that stuff. That's the manager role. Then you have the entrepreneur. The entrepreneur's role is to work on the systems of the business, identify bottlenecks or things that are holding the business back, to shape the overarching strategy and vision of the business, and to make sure that the business is heading in the right direction. So the problem is, when someone's working by themselves as a business of one, like Sarah is, they have to be the technician, the manager, and the entrepreneur. So Sarah, she thought that she could start a business making pies. and that she could focus on becoming the best technician. But the issue is that she also accepted 2 other job roles that she didn't know that she even applied for in the process of doing that. I feel like this is super applicable to the event industry. I've worked with hundreds and hundreds of event professionals in my 13 years in the event industry. And it seems that most people kind of get started either doing this kind of as a side hustle, or maybe they're doing it at their job, or they put on an event for a company they worked for or whatever, and they're like, hey, I'm pretty good at this, I enjoy it, it's a lot of fun, I love events, I'm gonna do this full time, right? And so they're really good at doing that technician stuff, at actually executing the event, then they start their own thing, and then once again they realize, oh, I actually took on 2 other jobs I wasn't expecting to take on, and then they have to go through the pains of that. So the E-Myth Revisited talks about Sarah's journey of going through this process of learning how to fulfill all of the roles and how to build leverage and things like that. It talks about the distinction between working in your business, which is being the technician and actually fulfilling the work, or being the manager and managing the work. These are both working in the business, versus working on the business, which is what the entrepreneur does. You're trying to make the business healthier as a whole. You're trying to make a better system. So going back to our friend Usain, if you're running as fast as you can only get so far and so fast. But if you learn to apply leverage, create better systems by working on your business, you can beat guys like Usain all day long, even if they're the fastest people, even if they're the best event professional or the best business owner or whatever. If you use superior tools of leverage and better systems, you will get further faster. And once again, this can apply to a business of 1 person just as well as it can apply to a business of more than 100 people. And with that little bit of background context, let's move into the good stuff, which, as I promised, I'm going to teach you 3 actionable steps that you can take immediately to unlock leverage in your business and hopefully achieve that elusive level of growth that you've been trying to get in either your career or your business, right? Whichever, same. And it just occurred to me, I probably should have clarified this earlier, but I want to define leverage really quick. So my favorite definition of leverage is you're simply getting more outputs or more results out of the same amount of inputs or effort. So for example, if I work 1 week and I put in 40 hours and I make $1,000, and then I put in 40 hours another week and I make $20,000, my $20,000 a week had a lot more leverage because I got way more results out of the same amount of effort, the same 40-hour input, right? Okay, so who am I and why do I have the audacity to talk about working in your business versus working on your business? Now, I'm going to share with you my story, and this isn't to be like, oh, look how great I am. I'm not saying I'm the greatest entrepreneur. I'm not saying I'm the greatest event professional or that I'm super wealthy or whatever, but this is my journey, and I want to share it with you because there's some principles that I've learned recently that I wish I would have learned a long time ago, so I want to be very transparent in sharing those with you. So this is kind of my street cred or war scars. Look at my, my cool gold chain and everything. All right, so this is Balloon Artisan's financial performance since I started it 13 years ago. So years 1 through 5, I made less than $25,000 in revenue each of those years. Now, I was pretty good at the craft of making balloon arches, but I was not making a lot of money. I had almost no leverage and honestly had no clue what the heck I was doing. In years 6 through 10, I figured some stuff out. I got to the point I was making roughly $180,000 per year. Some years a little higher, some years a little lower, with the exception of 2020. With COVID, that was absolutely horrible, right? I had a little more leverage. So right here, it was basically the Keenan show, and I had 5 or 6 helpers that would help me inflate balloons and do graphic design and stuff like that. But by and large, I was doing everything in the business still. I was the technician, I was the manager, and I was the entrepreneur. Jumping down to year 11, I was able to bring in $572,000 in revenue, which was a huge jump. This is where I started learning the real difference between working in the business and working on the business. I read the book Clear Back Here, and I thought I understood what it meant, but no one really spelled it out for me, and it's pretty obvious I didn't know what it meant. So what made this year possible is I learned to differentiate the tasks in my business. I learned what something a technician should do, what something a manager should do, and what something an entrepreneur should do. And I began replacing myself out of those technician-related tasks and even some of the manager-related tasks. And I started shifting more of my effort and more of my time and energy, or my inputs, into the role of an entrepreneur. So it was good. I started to finally unlock some leverage. Now, I didn't really make any money in this year because I put so much money into the system and building out technologies and training people and all that stuff that it was kind of like a meh year. I made more money here than here, but my time began looking different. Now, in 2024, we did $1.62 million in revenue, which is a significant jump. As a matter of fact, from years 1 through 11, I did not gross as much revenue as I did in 2024 alone. So this is pretty cool. We started getting a lot more leverage. I have a team of technicians that are artists, that are event coordinators, or balloon design experts is what we call them. And they take care of our clients. They handle all the inquiries and things like that. And I, this year, was able to step out of most of the technician role for my business, which was awesome. I still have to do a lot of the manager role, but most of my time is spent in the entrepreneurial role. Now, this year, we're on track to make about $3 million of sales so far, so that's pretty exciting for us. I'm now enjoying the benefits of the leverage and the systems I was investing in back here, and I'm now starting, like I said, to reap those rewards. So that's really exciting. The funny thing is if we hit 3 million in revenue this year, once again, we will do more sales than the previous 12 years combined. So hopefully that gives me a little bit of street cred about why I think working in your business versus working on your business is such an important distinction, and why I feel somewhat qualified to talk about these things. So there's a few quick distinctions I want to point out. The first one being that my work in these years, it was good, but my work last year was way better. My team executed 1,008 events last year, which is an insane amount of events. It's like 40 or 50 times the industry average for balloon artists. It's crazy. But the quality of work, because our systems and our leverage have been so refined and are so good, was way better here than it ever was before. Even when you worked with me the whole time, it was one-on-one, like I took good care of my clients, but I was always running around doing 50 million things. I was ordering balloons and designing things and answering the phone and sending invoices and worrying about insurance and driving around all day and managing social media and building the website. And I was so diluted in my time that the customer experience, while probably better than all the other balloon decor companies around, was not where I would have liked it to be. Where last year, we had specific people in specific roles, and they only did that one thing. So they got incredibly good at it, right? Our technicians became really, really experienced. And when you're doing 1,008 events in a year, that gives you a lot of repetition, a lot of time to really master your systems and your processes, to master that leverage and make sure everybody's doing the right thing so the results are phenomenal. One other thing I want to quickly point out, I actually talked about this in, I think it was episode 1 or 2 of the podcast, so you might want to go check that out, but it's what I call the event professional's death trap. And I was victim of that right here. And what that is I got enough leverage to grow a little bit. I started to have a pretty good reputation nationwide. I actually was flying all over the country, building really massive balloon art installations. There's some pretty impressive stuff. Some of the biggest balloon installations in the world I have built, and that was really cool. But the problem that I had back here is that I would start out at the beginning of the year with no projects. So I'd go out and I'd talk to clients and I would go to networking events. And so what would happen is I would find the client, which took a couple weeks. I would get ready for the event, which took a couple weeks. I'd build the event. And then at the end of that, I'd be back to square zero. I'd have no projects on the horizon, so I'd have to go back out and I would have to go find another client and then prepare for that and then build the event, and then I have to go back out, find another client, prepare for that, and build the event. And so this is what I mean by like the entrepreneur death trap. Because I was so busy doing the whole process myself, I was stuck. And that's why it took me 4 or 5 years to break above 180,000. Once I figured it out, I went to 572. Once I figured it out, I pretty much 3x the revenue, went to 1.62 million. And then now, who knows where things will end up in a couple of years. But it's significantly different than where I was even just a few years ago. Now, I do want to point out that leverage does not mean having to hire employees. I know a lot of event professionals, they prefer to kind of operate alone, and they don't want to deal with the hiring and the firing and the payroll nightmares and all the human resource stuff, which I don't blame them, by the way. They just want to focus on their craft, which is great. So even if you're a business of one, there are higher forms of leverage. Between here and here, it was still a business of one. And I figured out how to overcome, in this case, that marketing and sales issue that I was having. It took me a while to figure it out, but once I figured it out, I immediately unlocked leverage, and then I did choose to build the team. But I probably could have ran this by myself pretty easily. I could not have ran this by myself, but I could have ran this by myself. And if I would have had some like AI automations or whatever. So leverage can happen through technology, it can happen through systems, it can happen through digital mediums. So maybe like, we have our design brochure, which is hugely important to our operations at Balloon Artisan. So it can be through things like that. It can be through recorded Zoom calls, so you can educate your clients without having to be with them. There can be a lot of tools of leverage that you can unlock, even as a person just doing this by yourself, right? So really important. And obviously, if you have a big team, there's lots of leverage and lots of different ways you can unlock leverage. Okay, so here are the 3 actionable steps that you can take right now to unlock leverage in your business and unlock that new growth level you're trying to hit. And we'll start by talking about step 1, which is what I call the 3 buckets audit. So for step 1, we're going to take 3 buckets, and these are expertly drawn. And if you love my drawings and you want to purchase them, I've autographed this one here. It is for sale, so Venmo me some money and I'll ship it off to you. But we have the technician bucket, we have the manager bucket, and the entrepreneur bucket. And so the first thing that you need to do is you need to get a baseline of where you're spending most of your time and what tasks you're doing in your business. So if you want to take this step and do the 3 buckets audit, this is what you need to do. You need to find one week that's fairly representative of what you do, on a usual week. So if you're spending like a ton of time like doing tax reports and stuff like that, probably don't pick that week to do. But if it's a week that you're like, yeah, this is pretty much what I'd expect to be doing, that's a good week to pick. If you want to be overly ambitious and get really good data, you can do it for a whole month. But what you're going to do is you're going to take a piece of paper or create a notepad in your phone or whatever, and you're going to jot down every single task that you do for the week. And next to it, in the column next to it, you're going to write down the amount of time you spend on that specific task every time you do it. So if I respond to first client emails where they're saying, hey, Balloon Artisan, we'd love to work with you, blah, 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 and I do that 5 times a day, that should be listed 5 times a day. And each time I do that, I'm going to write the amount of time I spend doing that. This is kind of an annoying process, and I don't enjoy doing this myself, but it's hugely important because until you understand the ratio of where you're spending your time, and until you have a baseline to go off of, you don't know if you improve or not. And so what you need to do is you need to add up all your tasks, take the time, and then figure out how many hours each week you're spending in each bucket, and then you can even calculate what percentage of time that would be. For me, personally, I would rather take the lower leverage tasks and get those off my plate first, one that suck up all my time, and then focus on these, even though I don't like these tasks, because I can have more impact in the organization there. For most event professionals, they're going to find that the technician bucket takes up the vast majority of their time. And that might be good or bad depending on how you want to spend your time, where your growth goals are and things like that. But this is probably where you're spending most of your time. And once again, the technician is the one that actually gets the work done. So if you're a DJ, the technician's one out there on the floor and setting up the lights and all that stuff. That's the technician. Or if you're doing cake decorating, that's the one actually baking the cake, stuff like that. Or in my case, balloon decorating, you're inflating the balloons, you're assembling the balloon installation, you're transporting it to the venue, you're installing it, you're cleaning it up. All that would be the technician work. So if this is taking up most of your time and you want to grow and you want to make more money and have more freedom, more flexibility, all that good stuff that people get into business for, then you're going to want to focus on this bucket first so you can remove yourself from some of those steps that you don't want to do. But that's only if you want to, right? Your goals come first. So you have to know where you want to go as an event professional and in your career before you start following my advice or anybody's advice, right? Some people, they are the craft, they are the thing being sold. If you're the celebrity, and people want you specifically, you might not be able to get out of the technician and you might not want to. And that's probably okay. I actually have an episode, I think it's the one that's 2 strategies for creating life-changing wealth as an event professional. It might have been the 2nd episode, something like that. Go give that a listen to. I talk about this a lot. But if you are the person in your business and people want you, then you might find that there's some technician things you can outsource. So if I'm a musician, I don't have to set up the stage. I don't have to tune the guitars or get things ready or whatever. It might be possible for me to get leverage or to build systems to take care of that for me if I want to. But you might want to instead focus on the manager bucket, because if you're working on being the star, being the rock star or the celebrity, and people want you, well then doing things like sending invoices or managing payroll or talking to your insurance people about that certificate of insurance or whatever it is, are going to be a complete waste of time. They're going to be detracting from what you're doing. And so then your best form of leverage will be doing this, right? But the end goal should be to spend more time over in this bucket, the entrepreneur bucket. So for most people wanting to grow and wanting to unlock leverage and have more freedom and more flexibility in their time and spend more time with their family and go on more trips and only take on the projects they want, you're going to want to shift out of these buckets and shift your time into mostly these buckets. Now, I mentioned a little bit earlier that usually my time's here. Last year I allocated most of my time between these 2 buckets, almost no time in this one. So we did 1,008 projects last year. I personally was involved in 5 of them. So not a lot of time was spent on this, less than 1%, right? The manager was probably about 20% of my time, so that's one-to-ones with my team, training, hiring, all that stuff. 80% was how can we build a better system? And this is where the freedom and the flexibility is found. and a lot of the stress too, but story for a different time. So if you're looking for those outcomes, you want to shift away from these buckets, get more into the entrepreneur bucket, and you want to find systems or technology or people or partners to take care of this stuff for you. In summary, step one, the 3 buckets audit, we just want to figure out where your time's going and which of these buckets are you spending most of your day or your week in. Step 2, this is where we prioritize those tasks. So what you're going to do is you're going to rank them from each bucket. So all the tasks in this bucket get ranked together, all the ones in this and this. You're going to rank them from highest leverage activity to lowest leverage activity. The lowest leverage activities are probably going to be the ones that you want to focus on systematizing or automating or hiring someone to do those tasks or working with a partner first. Most likely, at least if your goal is to spend more time over here, right? You're going to want to focus on getting those low leverage tasks, so the ones that you can't really speed up or make any faster, you want to get those off your plate first. And you can do that once again through technology, through hiring, through partners, through getting rid of it altogether if it's not important, or through creating digital assets, whatever. There's a lot of creative ways that you can go about addressing each one. And a really important distinction, low leverage does not mean unimportant. So one of the lowest leverage tasks that happen at Balloon Artisan is when someone reaches out to us with an inquiry, we work with them one-on-one to figure out their vision, to figure out the goals of their event, and to figure out how what we can create will best meet those goals and fulfill that vision, right? So we spend a lot of time going through pictures with them and ideas and learning about their venue and what's the flow of the venue, do you have any layouts we can look at? You can't really speed that up. Like you can't have that conversation with 2 people at once. And so it's very low leverage and it sucks up a ton of time. Matter of fact, my team, probably 80% of the people that oversee that task spend their time doing that one thing. And so if I'm stuck doing that one thing and there's low leverage, I really, the only way to get my time back is to either systematize it or use a better tool to get this done or hire somebody to get this done, or I have to take a temporary haircut on my revenue and in my sales so I have the time to focus on things that will ultimately push the business further in the long run. So low leverage, but extremely important. So for me and my business, meeting with clients is very low leverage, but it's extremely important. It's key to everything we do on the team. Meanwhile, our team just got done revamping our website and redesigning our design brochure, which are super important parts of our operations at Balloon Artisan, and it's really the main tool that we use to attract clients and to make sales. So really important. Now, I spent 2 months going from the entrepreneur bucket back to the technician bucket to do this, because this isn't something I can just hand off to a freelancer or something like that. I need to be intimately involved in this. So I pumped in 360 hours of my time over the past 2 months probably into these initiatives. But it's high leverage because every client that reaches out to us sees the design brochure. Every person that's interested in talking to us sees the website. And so my 360 hours will probably be split between about 5,000 to 8,000 clients for the brochure alone before we revamp the brochure again. We revamp that darn thing all the time, but probably 5,000 to 8,000 more potential clients will see it before we make changes to it again. And the website will probably be seen by tens of thousands of people. So very high leverage activity. If you divide the revenue potential that these activities will bring into my 360 hours, it's like an insane return, like $10,000 an hour, something like that. So high leverage. That's what I want to focus my time on as an entrepreneur. I let my team focus on the low leverage things. But I can only do that because I've gone through, I've done the bucket audit, and I've ranked everything in order from highest leverage to lowest leverage, and I spend my time on the highest leverage activities. Now on to step 3, which is the bus test. Tragically, 30 days from now, you're going to get ran over by a bus, and there's nowhere you can hide, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. You're going to get ran over, but you're going to survive. However, you will be in a full body cast for 3 months, and you cannot do any work at all. The only thing you can do is verbally tell people what to do, but you can't type, you can't use your phone, you can't access email, completely bedridden, nothing you can do but talk. What processes or steps have to be done within the next 30 days so I can have that 3 months off, right? Which things will kill the business if they are not done over that 3-month period, right? And how can I create systems either through automation or teaching people how to do them or finding a vendor that will do it for you? How can I create those things so that the business survives, 4 months from now, once all this is said and done, you're recovered and, learn not to be around buses, I guess. So this is kind of a fun thought exercise. It's been really helpful for me to be like, okay, if I were to get hit by a bus, what would kill the company first? Okay, well that would kill it first. That means I need to focus on that. And then once you focus on that, then there's a new thing that will kill the company, right? Kind of a new bottleneck. And so then you need to focus on solving that problem. And by doing that, you're able to apply leverage throughout the system. And as you do this over and over and over, you'll find your business gets a lot healthier and your time goes from here to here where you have the most leverage and you can make the biggest impact on your organizations and the likelihood of fulfilling your dreams. I should also point out, this is not a one and done process. Like, don't do it today and be like, wow, that was helpful, never do it again. Like, come back to this every 6 months, every year or whatever, because your business is going to change and evolve and there's going to be new points of leverage that you can apply to unlock that next lever of growth. By the time you finish these 3 steps, you should have a pretty good idea which tasks are holding you back and keeping you from getting to where you want to be. You should also have a pretty good idea of which tasks you need to focus on to unlock the biggest return on your effort, or in other words, the most leverage. You should also have a clear roadmap teaching you how to work on your business as opposed to working in your business. I hope you found this episode to be really helpful and that you now have the knowledge and the confidence to move forward to overcome whatever obstacle is keeping you from where you want to be. Now, I have a huge favor to ask of you. If you know anybody who's an event professional or a business owner, an entrepreneur that would love to learn the stuff in this podcast, please feel free to share with them. By sharing the podcast, that lets me know that, hey, this stuff is valuable, people want to hear more of it, and the episodes that get shared, I make more content like that. The episodes that don't get shared, I make less content like that. So if you love this episode and you want to learn more of this stuff, please share it with a friend. It would mean the world to me. Thanks for joining me on this episode of the Event Secrets Podcast, where we talk about how to put on better events, take better care of our clients, and make a whole lot more money in the process. And by the way, if you're on LinkedIn, I love connecting with other event professionals, so look me up. My name is Keenan Price. I am the CEO of Balloon Artisan and the host of the Event Secrets Podcast. Send me a connection request, send me a message. I would love to connect with you. I feel like the event space can be kind of lonely at times, so the better job we do connecting together, the better we make the industry for all of us.